As much as rap lyrics tend and seem to be pure fiction nowadays due to the lifestyles fans expect from artists, whether lavish and or violent, Drake has most definitely made his landmark and group affiliations known via repeated verbiage throughout his tenuous career. For as we all know, even if you're not a fan, Drake labels himself the Sixth God. And that's for a reason, essentially crowning himself the king of the 6 distinct municipalities of Toronto, his home city located in Canada. And from the looks of it, nobody of competing stature has even rebelled against his self-proclamation of this title. As many already know, Drake was not necessarily raised in the streets. In fact, originally, he earned his claim to fame by playing the character of Jimmy Brooks in previously popular show Degrassi, allowing him to live most of his childhood with his mother in the rather affluent Forest Hill district in Toronto. Although, he didn't move to this district until the 6th grade, where he allegedly split a home with another family and his mother. Before this, he grew up on Weston Road, a much worse area ridden with crime in some parts. Drake's mother was a Jewish woman that did anything she could to give him the best opportunities. He spent summers in Memphis with his father. That could account for some of his musical influences later in his life. But given his upbringing, his involvement in the darker side of Toronto seems to be similar to a mafia-type character, which Drake has actually alluded to in many of his songs, such as in tracks like Mob Ties, where he specifically references it, whereby he controls his city by enlisting all the major street leaders under his payroll to protect his position of wealth and power, whether the payment be with actual capital or other methods, and then utilizing the funds earned throughout his overtly successful career via the music industry, all the while keeping his distance away from any illegal activity to remain a law-abiding citizen, as well as maintain favor in the general public that perceives him as a rather unproblematic rapper, and therefore attracts a wider appeal, to further fuel the underworld criminal organization system he may or may not be involved in back in Canada. But in more recent years, Toronto has been perceived as one of the most prolific cities at the forefront of contemporary hip-hop, pop, and R&B genres, due to the emergence and public showcase by Drake, The Weeknd, and many alike. But well below the surface, the Canadian city has a deep-rooted history of gang violence spanning decades, including classic disputes between the Crips and Bloods, Crips versus Crips, Sick Thugs versus both. Currently, altercations typically linked to neighborhood rivalries, but before all this existed a war between two cultures, Jamaicans and Somalis, both of which Drake has paid homage to within his lyrics and influences. Most notably, on the song Draft Day, Drake explicitly rapped, "Know some Somalis that say we got it, wallahi," a Somali dialect of the Arabic word wallah, meaning I swear to Allah or God. Whereas in the latter half of his career, inflections of dancehall and Afro beats are easily recognizable in his discography, even in some of his biggest hits on Views and More Life, using blatant terminology as song names such as blem, a Jamaican term for tobacco or weed, hence why in the past, Drake has been accused of being a culture vulture for utilizing accents and phraseology from other heritages that he's not necessarily related to, but now with the knowledge of his home city Toronto's history, it all makes a lot more sense. Unfortunately though, his influences do not stop at music and vernacular. The Halal Gang is a collective of rappers formed by Puffy L's, Smoke Dogg, Moji, Safe, and Mustafa, whose group name derives from another Arabic word, halal, meaning lawful in honor of their Muslim roots. Its members all lived in Regent Park, a predominantly East African and Caribbean populated downtown neighborhood of Toronto. Puffy L's and Moji were both Somali, Smoke Dogg Jamaican, and Safe Eritrean, all practicing Muslims. You may already recognize Moji and Safe, whom have both received rather public cosigns from Drake. In one of Drake's biggest singles, Summer 16, he rapped, "Moji with the dance moves," a direct reference to the fellow Canadian rapper he once helped in financing his album. He also shouts out Moji on another hit in collaboration with Future called Jumpman, wherein Drake modified one of his prior lines, switched it up with the left like Ginobili, and even repped the song's coin dance move in another track, Energy. Throughout the early 2010s, Halal Gang gained recognition by other prominent rappers such as A$AP Ferg, as well as the internet, with various music videos surpassing millions of views. Although the group is primarily known for their music releases, Halal Gang is said to have originally stemmed from being a criminal organization rivaling another Toronto gang, Sick Thugs, that ended with the passing of one of its members, Ruck. Shortly afterwards, Halal Gang focused on music around 2010. Though past feuds may have sought revenge. For on June 30th of 2018, one of its original members, Smoke Dogg, was killed, seemingly targeted in a shooting in front of a Toronto nightclub in broad daylight. Fans speculated the hit was retaliation for filming a scene of his recent Fountain freestyle music video in front of a rival gang's housing project, allegedly instigating a neighborhood war that had been building tension for some time. Drake paid his respects following his Scorpion album release the day prior to his fallen friend on his Instagram story, questioning all the violence. For Smoke Dogg actually accompanied Drake on 15 different dates on his Boy Meets World European tour in 2017, as with many other Drake associates that we will be speaking on later. Ironically, 2 weeks earlier, XXXTentacion was murdered in a targeted homicide and attempted armed robbery, instigating conspiracies that Drake was behind the hit due to a triple X reference in one of his song lyrics in relation to their dispute on social media, whereby X accused Drake of stealing his flow on recent release KMT from X's song Look at Me. 4 months prior to his death, X jokingly posted on his Instagram story, "If anyone tries to kill me, it was Drake," inciting fans to conjure up such theories. And within the past couple of months, Drake has actually been called as a witness by X's murder trial's defense, although likely an attempted scapegoat by the actual perpetrators. But given Drake's countless references to his connections to the streets, the speculation was actually able to hold weight. The Jungle, commonly known as one of Drake's most popular song titles from the If You're Reading This It's Too Late mixtape, is yet another ode to his city. More specifically, a neighborhood in which one of his most prolific alleged shooters resides, Hassan Top 5 Ali, famously mentioned on another one of Drake and Future's collaborations called Grammys, by which the rapper whispered in double entendre, "Top 5, top 5, top 5," while at the same time claiming his spot within the top 5 lineup of rappers in history. Top 5 is also known as Shirt Off Shawty, after gaining popularity from posing in comedic selfies with celebrities while unencumbered by torso restrictions. Quite a personality, for his name also spread throughout the neighborhood and corners of the internet after spreading rumors that his older sisters were romantically involved with Drake, and alluding to the possibility of a collab with Drake releasing at some point in time. But it's almost been a decade. Regardless, he and Drake still remain friends. Understandably, because Top 5 definitely has Drake's best interests at heart, although his execution may be a bit off. Rummaging through the treacherous streets of the jungle your entire life will do that to you. For the Toronto Demon himself, quite literally, admitted to catching bodies and getting away with it on DJ Academic's Twitch livestream, in addition to confirming his explicit title as Drake's shooter and his leadership of the GGG criminal organization in Toronto.
All right, so you say I'm looking at the wrong artist in Toronto now?
You want to know who to look in Toronto?
Talk to me, brother.
Flipper.
But
that was my big dog. They just arrested him for 2 bodies.
What?
But they freed up his little bro. His little bro's is part of GGG. He just beat a body.
Wait, what's GGG?
Go get him, gang.
Go get him, gang. All right. So y'all are the top shotters when it comes to Toronto.
Let me tell you what happened in Toronto. Boogs, you know Boogs, right?
Yeah.
He got a leg us.
Oh,
Crying.
Whoa.
Crying.
No, whoa.
There's a next rapper named Snoopy. You could go on YouTube. I took his chain in the mall.
You took his chain?
And I told him I'm going to take it in 14 days on live. And I got it on the 9th day.
Oh, man, on the 9th day of Christmas, Jesus.
There's an artist named, what artist that got shot?
Yo, you terrorizing the city.
I'm a fucking demon. Talking about. I hang with demons. Flipper just got caught with 2 bodies. He's gonna beat it innocent. My homie just beat a body, Century GGG.
Y'all got some good
Bro,
lawyers.
we all just beat bodies.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
they don't have evidence on us. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no witnesses, right? No, of course.
Yo, okay. I was informed the police is watching this, so I don't know what the fuck happened to those guys. They got really injured.
Oh man, yeah, this gonna go viral. So just watch what you say. I don't want to Vlad. I don't want to set you up like Vlad.
Drake,
I love Vlad.
Drake, that's Big Dog.
Oh, Drake, Big Dog.
Big Dog. That's Big Dog. See, if somebody that doesn't like Drake comes to the city, we're taking care of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So
We're
wait,
picking up.
Drake has shouted you out before. That's how some people knew you.
That's Big Bro.
So he saw
every night text message.
He saw you moving in the city and he saw you working and he gave you a shout out.
No, just that I knew him before the rap shit. Like I used to see him here and there. You know what I mean? And then now it's a love right now. It's like I'm a shooter basically.
Yeah. So you the
I'm Drake
streets.
Shooter.
You're the streets.
Yeah, I'm Drake Shooter.
Oh shit.
I'm not lying to you. Anybody disrespect Drake, I'm shooting you.
Damn. Okay.
The evidence aligns with his statements too, in that in February of 2021, Top 5 was arrested for a targeted homicide. Although originally, he was only charged as an accessory, not the actual shooter, but the charges were upgraded to a first-degree murder after cutting off his ankle monitor while being out on bond and doing the race to later be detained in Los Angeles shortly after revealing his location at a studio on Instagram. Perhaps not the best person to have as your top shooter. Drake's OVO affiliations are not limited to the aforementioned. In fact, I'm sure the most public are the least of worries for any opposition. But we have to work with whatever evidence we have on the internet. Anthony Hush Paulman, nickname likely acquired from how little information about him resides on the internet. Yet all the information we really need to know about this mysterious individual derives from Drake's own words within the lyrics of Miss Me, released in 2010, wherein he raps, "Hush has got a gun," showcasing how long Drake's connections have been rooted within the Toronto street scene. Also a past solo artist, namely Young Tony, from a 2000s rap group called Deep Pockets, his words describe the violent tribulations of his city. Only one interview exists under his rap pseudonym in which he hinted at his past. "I grew up all over the city, mainly in Scarborough though, but I was always the crazy one out of the group. People called me Treach while I was growing up. My real friends still do. I got that name from my boys because I used to do some mean shit to people, so they started calling me Tony Treacherous, Treach for short. But for obvious reasons, I couldn't use that name in the rap game, so one day someone called me Young Tony. I just stuck with it, but on the street, they still call me Treach." Hush was once a rapper and at one point rumored to be one of Drake's ghostwriters. Due to Drake's previous tweets announcing he was the studio with names such as Young Tony, amidst being credited almost every track from Drake's Nothing Was the Same and Take Care albums. Hush has also worked with Beyonce in the past, so no doubt he is involved in some musical capacity. Drake even included him in his top 5 rappers list, albeit potentially a joke. Though more recently, he has reportedly been portrayed as more of a quote, advisory role within the OVO conglomerate as Drake has recruited more writers. For what many fans do not realize is a rather common practice in hip hop is to include friends and family in writing credits to keep them on payroll in perpetuity, potentially to fulfill other services. Nonetheless, in this case, still pure speculation. A more notable rapper due to his popular single in collaboration with both Drake and Future a few years back, titled DNF, Preem, formerly known as P. Rain, is connected to Drake through his older brother, Guillotine, an old friend, both of which were founding members of Reps Up Gang, a street movement in G-Way, short for Kingston Galloway, an East End neighborhood in Toronto known for its high crime rate and gang activity, turned record label through diplomatic alliances with OVO, Young Money, The Weeknd's XO, and other Canadian associations. In fact, in Drake's No Long Talk from More Life, he mentioned briefly, "If Gilla calls shots, no questions," hinting at Gilla's power within the underworld of Toronto. Gilla also appeared in a scene of Nav's Price on My Head music video during The Weeknd's feature stating, "People on your side, they would ride for me too," subliminally informing Drake that he shares one of his so-called shooters. Preem, on the other hand, has had many troubles with the law including his arrest for cocaine trafficking in 2004 and 9 counts of weapon possession after 3 firearms were found in his vehicle in 2008, possibly a plug for the organization. What I'm finding is everybody has a specific role. Another OVO affiliate, and actually signee in this case, associated with the phrase no long talk is the OVO rapper Travis Savory, or more commonly referred to as Baka Not Nice, for obvious reasons. Drake name dropped him in the song, which seemed to me an audio showcase of all of his, let's say, talent. Starting off the song with the first bar, that's Baka, he a no long talker, quick to let the motherfucking tech slam. With his criminal record littered with convictions of armed robbery and assault, as well as charges that have since been dropped in the realms of procuring, essentially being a pimp, and human trafficking, his addition to Drake's company definitely enhanced the label's street credibility when he was released in 2015. And while the two rappers have collaborated on music in the past, such as on the song Live Up to My Name, even Baka labels himself primarily as one of Drake's goons that step up if and when needed.
You know, obviously I come out of jail, I got the street credibility, I meet Drake, and honestly it was just like, it was so organic, like we just gelled immediately, like, you know, like I can't tell you why he chose to keep having me around, or why I kept why I chose to be around him and want to flex with them. There was no real reason, you know, other than it was just organic. That's to be crazy. Honest with you. So it just built from that, and I labeled myself. He didn't label me as his goon. I labeled myself as his goon. Just so that it's stated, you know, I labeled myself as his goon. So that means like if you
I come to you so if something happens to Drake.
We don't even really need to get into it, but yeah. So that's how it started, and then like the friendship grew into like basically a brotherhood, bro. Like honestly, man, like I call him, I'll message him at 3 a.m, you know, when I come home from the studio and just be like, yo, you know, I bless you, you know, father. I call him father, you know, like, and that's just a sign of respect, you know, in Jamaica, you know. And I'd be like, yo, you know, respect that, you know, because, yo, you gave me a chance, you know. You could have turned your back on me so many times and you didn't, you know. You're a real friend. And I feel like I need to let him know that, you know.
So if you couldn't already tell, it seems to be a trend that many of the professionals on Drake's payroll have implicit responsibilities aside from legal titles paid through quarterly music royalty checks. And Pressa is no exception. More recently known for dating Coi Leray, Pressa has a much more prominent role in the Toronto hip-hop scene as a standalone figure due to his collaborations with Murda Beats early on and popular track Novocaine. In addition to some of the OVO clique we've already discussed, Pressa has also accompanied Drake throughout his Boy Meets World European tour back in 2017. But his relationship with Drake may also involve a bit more than just music. At 26 years old, the Filipino and Jamaican descendant from the Driftwood area in Toronto, a rough part of town known for its high levels of poverty and unemployment, is fortunate to be a free man, as he was previously charged with kidnapping an alleged rival gang member linked to the Queens Drive Crips, in so forcing them to play Russian roulette and perform unforgivable acts, if you catch my drift, after a 2016 shootout. Pressa was identified as the gunman who struck the victims in the head while they were held hostage, supported only by evidence that he looked like the same man in the music video called Was Gang, uploaded to YouTube shortly after under the name Pressa before his name really held much weight, rhyming of relevant details in the case such as kidnapping drug dealers. Nonetheless, this was deemed insufficient evidence to convict him as the perpetrator at the time, and only boosted his street credibility and internet popularity as a rapper for getting away with it. Many fans in the area even compared him to legendary rapper Eazy-E due to the subject matter of his music and physical attributes of being a rather short man. A year later, in 2016, Drake and other rappers would take notice of his talents. His brother didn't fare the same positive results though. For 2 years earlier, he was sentenced to 10 years in prison for leading the infamous violent gang Young Buck Killers and suspicions of drug and firearm trafficking throughout the city. 60 arrests in total were subsequently connected to the same organized crime raid, of which Pressa, aka Quentin Gardner, somehow escaped. Confidential informants told the judge that Quentin was next in line and or second in charge. Obviously, Drake likes to keep a certain type of company around him. And last, but certainly not least, Chubbs, or what Drake likes to call him, Capo, as he is Drake's personal bodyguard and right-hand man. For the name Capo, short for Capo Regime, is Italian in origin and derives from the highest ranking member, or captain, of the mafia family. Ironic, given Drake's constant references to the mafia and mob throughout his career in lyrics, likely comparing his own team and connections to their violent yet swift tendencies. Chubbs is referenced in a handful of bars starting in the early 2010s to ward off any plots against Drake, such as in 2013 on Live For. Chubbs might hold that thing. If he get caught, he'll be home by spring. Things I shouldn't share, I mean for the sake of my career. And a year earlier on Club Paradise, I be with my man Chubbs. He in love with the street shit. No wonder why I feel awkward at this fashion week shit. Drake even illustrates an occurrence at Coachella by which Chubbs had to draw his firearm to intimidate an enemy on Behind Bars freestyle in 2018. Been with Chubbs through highs and lows. We seen man last night, they froze. Wasn't no cameras, wasn't no pose. Just like that one time at Chella, good thing man weren't pulling out phones. Drake and Chubbs both confirm his role as one of Drake's, quote, handlers during an in-person interview with Complex. When questioned about particular bars in his headlines hit single, Drake said, "You're gonna make someone around me catch a body like that. That's somebody you can ask them about." He points to his boy Chubbs, the one who's in love with the street shit. Chubbs replies, "Everybody wants to poke and jab at Drake because they don't feel like he will throw back. But nobody around here is gonna let something happen to him at any time, especially me. I'm not ever gonna let anything happen to him. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen to me first." No wonder Drake keeps him so close. Shortly after Drake and Pusha T exchanged diss tracks and the surprise release of his son Adonis to the public, Chubbs jokingly posted on Instagram with a caption of, "We don't ban people, we welcome them with open arms." Obviously taunting Pusha T following his episode on Drink Champs, in which he claimed he was banned from traveling to Canada. Makes sense considering his recent tour stop in Toronto resulted in a brawl on stage and one person with life-threatening injuries. In 2016, Chubbs was accused by former OVO producer Detail of assaulting him, more specifically breaking his jaw and being hospitalized and undergoing multiple surgeries in Drake's mansion a couple years back. Detail claimed that Drake lured him into the trap after he turned down the opportunity to be Drake's exclusive executive producer after his performance on the production of 305 My City on his Nothing Was the Same album. Eventually, the lawsuit was dismissed by the court after Detail refused to show up to the deposition, likely due to the lack of evidence from the large displacement of time since the incident, but also seemingly to avoid contact with Drake, to potentially avoid further altercations. So whether Drake himself can be classified as a true gangster, it is quite clear from the people he surrounds himself with that the small detail doesn't really matter. In fact, in most criminal organizations, such as the mafia, the leaders rarely get their hands dirty, and for a reason. They have too much responsibility at the top, and frankly, without him, many of his employees would be out of a job, with a lavish lifestyle at that. In another Complex interview, Drake explains how he has never really been involved in the streets, but he has ties with all the real players, attempting to give out as many opportunities to his home city as possible out of love. "I don't brag about my hood stories. I've done a lot for the streets out here. I know every street rapper out here, real street rappers by the way, because there's some bullshit ass people out here that'll try and go at me and take their little shots and shit, but I know everybody that's official. It's all love." That's got a lot to do with how happy I am in life too, because I'm at a good place. I'm good with everybody and I try to present opportunities to everybody that I can, whether it's a t-shirt or come out to this party. No wonder Drake's life has never been, at least publicly, challenged, considering the environment and lifestyle of being a rapper with its inherent risks. He made sure to befriend and even employ, in many cases, all the right people, indiscriminatory of their past. In fact, the darker the past, the safer he is. and not once does there seem to be a bit of disloyalty. Hence why there has not been any opposition to Drake labeling himself the sixth god, king of the Toronto underworld.